So perpetual cycle of business with for sale by owners and landlords. Most people hear FSBOs and they go, now I got to be a salesy schmuck. That's not what we're doing. And most people hear landlords and they just kind of scratch their head and go, listings from landlords. I've never even thought of this. So it's a lot of fun to do these value-based strategies that it costs you absolutely $0 to execute, but they are highly effective. So let's dive right in. If you don't already know me, this is me in a nutshell, right? Top producing agent, real estate coach, blah, 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 all the fun stuff on the slide. I practice what I preach. I am not a philosopher. I am not a do as I say, not as I do kind of coach. I close several transactions a year, several dozen transactions a year, executing the specific strategies that I teach agents to execute. So nothing that I am going to tell you is philosophical. Nothing I'm going to tell you is unproven. These things I do myself consistently and they work, which is why I'm sharing them with all of you. If you want to connect with me in any way, social media, Facebook, business page, Calendly link, all the stuff, you can just scan that QR code. It'll take you to my link tree. All of my info is on the link tree. If you want to grab, some info on me and do some research, whatever you might want to do. All right, let's dive right in. What are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about why listings. And for the loan officers on the call, understand that the first 10, 12 minutes of this conversation is going to be about the back end of this strategy, which sometimes converts into listings for agents. But there's a ton of value in the way we do this in order to generate buyers for both the agents and the loan officers. So I promise you there's tons of value here for the loan officers in executing this strategy as well. We're going to talk about why FSBOs and landlords. Why would we even want to execute the strategy using those particular types of people? How to find them, how to have a conversation with them, the most important thing, which I'll share on the slide, and then a little bit of Q&A. I really want to dive into the nuts and bolts of this. So after this presentation, I'm going to literally pull up the exact resources we use to execute. Okay, so why listings? Some of the things that you've probably heard, you can drop them in the chat if you like. If someone was to ask you, why do you want more listings? Right? There's all these different things that people say, and you can drop them in the chat what you have heard about listings versus buyers, buyers versus listings, whatever the case might be. You've got some conceptions, I'm sure, about why listings might be better than buyers. So here's some things that people say. List to last, right? If you're not getting listings, you're probably not going to be very successful in the business. That's not actually true, but it's a buzzword out there nonetheless. You can have a great buyer-focused business. There's nothing wrong with that. But a lot of people say if you want to be consistent, you want some listings. Signs lead to more signs, right? Meaning if I have a sign up at a listing, someone might call me to say, hey, I see you're selling my neighbor's house. I was thinking about selling mine too. And so there's just a little bit of additional marketing that takes place with the listing side. It's actually not a high percentage. Listings are easier. If you execute the strategies I'm going to show you, that's not really true either, because working with buyers, when you know how to put them under contract with the right house, can actually close deals faster than putting a listing on the market and waiting for the right buyer to show up. You could argue, right, there's a little bit less complexity to a listing. Once I have it on the market, it's easier for me. I'm just fielding questions and buyers agents are doing the work, etc. But it's really not any easier or less. You set the commission in that regard. That's a little bit true, right? Because while commissions have always been negotiable, and they always are, the listing agent and the seller still sit down and say, what are we going to do commission-wise? Do we want to compensate a buyer's agent? If you're a smart listing agent, you're going to talk about, yes, we want to compensate a buyer's agent. So you will in some ways set the commission, but understand that they're always negotiable. So even if I'm the buyer's agent, I can still write in any compensation agreement I want, and we can have that conversation. Less time, less gas money. That's my personal favorite because I drive a big old Ford Expedition, in which I'm probably going to sell at some point. I'm at 205,000 miles on that bad boy, and get something more economical. But driving around, showing buyers houses, spending 6 hours on a weekend across 10 houses for someone that's coming in from out of town and they're only here for the weekend, that can eat up some time. That can eat up some gas money. And whatever your favorites might be as well, right? That's just some of the reasons that people say listings are worth pursuing. Now, understand, we're not actually pursuing listings with this strategy. The listings will become a byproduct of you using this strategy properly. We're really generating a ton of great buyer business for our agents and our lending partners when we execute this strategy the way that I'm going to show you. All right, so why FSBOs? Why would we specifically focus on FSBOs? Well, we know that they want to sell their home, and we're in the business of helping people sell their homes. So it's a beautiful marriage. There's some things they don't want to do. We'll talk about that in a couple minutes, but we know they want to sell their home, right? There's a relationship that we can build here. We don't have to go search for their info. It's not hard to find. We don't need a dialing service. We don't need someone to go skip trace data. They're publishing their numbers, their names, their house information readily available online all the time. So very easy to acquire the information we need to have the conversation. The conversation itself, super easy. Super easy. It is not the conversation that you probably have in your head right now. It is not the conversation that a lot of mainstream real estate coaches have probably taught you at some point. If you've ever had any real estate coaches that talked about FSBOs, it's a very different conversation, but the conversation is incredibly natural, casual, easy, value-based. You'll see what I mean by that. And the statistics don't lie. The vast majority of FSBOs list with an agent before the house sells. As a matter of fact, in 2024, the statistic was 93% of for sale by owners will list with an agent before the house sells. Imagine that for a moment. Imagine if you had a 93% chance of success simply by staying in front of people and being their friend. 93% probability that you'll list this house at some point as you're out there doing what we're going to teach you, as you're out there bringing buyers. If you don't close the deal yourself with a buyer that you brought, at some point, there's a very high probability they'll ask you to list it anyway because of the way we approach the relationship and the value that we add to it. And then last but not least, they actually make great referral partners. If you execute this strategy the way I teach, and you just focus on building the relationship, adding value, helping them every way you can, even if you never get the listing, which again is not the primary goal anyway, they will be your referral partners because of the way you approach them, the way you help them, the way you added value to them. These are the things that build great relationships with people. And when we have great friends and we know someone that needs real estate, the first thing we do is we turn to our friend in real estate and we refer them. That's business 101, right? Referrals are always a high conversion rate. So those are just some of the reasons we want to work with FSBOs. Now, why landlords? Because that's a little bit different for most people. They don't understand this. They've never heard of this. Landlords are very rational, numbers-based people. Most of them are investors, and they have no emotional connection to the house, right? My kids didn't grow up there. I didn't have to bury my old golden retriever in the backyard. I don't have those same kind of heartstring scenarios as an investor that the average homeowner has. I ran the numbers worked, I made a decision. And so when we talk to landlords, they are very rational. They are, what does the numbers look like? What's the ROI here? Does this make sense for my business model? Yes or no? So it's very easy to have the conversation with them. They typically have multiple properties, right? You might find a landlord that has a property on the market for rent, and as you're having the conversation with them, you realize that they have 7 rental properties that they've acquired over the last decade or two, right? You just never know. Sometimes they want to buy more, which is fantastic, right? We're all about taking an investor. That's repeat business. That's consistent business. I'm all about that. And if they don't want to sell the rental property that I called about, I'm more than happy to go find them some other great investments that we can potentially buy together, right? So there's a perpetual cycle here. If the numbers work, they're interested. Like I said, they're very rational people. They're going to look at the numbers. They're going to analyze what that means to their business. And if it makes sense, it makes sense. And often that leads to repeat business sooner and consistent business. Because again, as an investor, I don't just buy one property and hold it for 6 to 9 years like the average homeowner does. I might buy a property today, and 3 months from now, I want to buy another one. And 6 months from now, I want to buy another one. And then I sell one, and then I roll the equity into buying 2 more. And so you can exponentially grow your business by just connecting with a few investor landlords and having the right conversation. Okay, how do we find them, right? This is always a question that pops up. Well, where do I even find these yahoos? So on the left side of the screen, you'll see a list of places you can find for sale by owners. On the right side of the screen, you'll see where do I find landlords. You'll notice the top 2 are consistently the same. Zillow, it's the only thing as a real estate agent I like Zillow for, the ability to search on their map feature and sort by owner only. You can weed out all of the agent MLS listings and just show me what's posted for sale by owner. and show me what's posted for rent so I can quickly scan through there and find the individual landlords. Facebook Marketplace is great for this as well. Obviously, Facebook Marketplace is a strategy that we teach in the 100K challenge as well. And what you'll see is that not only can you build great business for yourself through Marketplace, which is part of what we teach, but there's always opportunities to connect with other people who are also on Marketplace selling things. And so FSBOs and rentals, but both of those are options. And then as you go down the list, you'll see some other options that are specific to FSBOs or landlords, depending on which strategy you're trying to execute. All right, let's keep on chugging. So how do we talk with them? So I'm going to dwell on this for a little bit because it's super important, right? We need to understand the psychology behind the conversation. So I teach another course called Quality Conversations, How to Build Relationships That Build Your Business, right? And it's about all kinds of different conversations. There's about 8 to 10 different conversations that I talk about in there about how to have the right conversation in order to develop the right relationship, and the relationship will ultimately turn into business for you. And so we start that presentation with psychology. What is the mindset of the person I'm talking to? Because that mindset of the person I'm talking to actually impacts the value proposition that I bring to the table. And if we don't have a proper alignment between their mindset, their psychology, and our attempted value proposition, there'll be a disconnect and the conversation doesn't spark the relationship we want. So it's very important to understand that. We're going to talk to them just like anyone else. When we make the phone call, I am going to assume that we are already best friends and I'm just here to help. I don't have to convince them to like me. I don't have to convince them to work with me. I'm just going to call them to help them, because that's ultimately what we're trying to do. So we have to go into this with the right attitude. We have to understand that we have value to bring to every person that we have a conversation with, whether it's an expired listing, it's our sphere of influence, it's a past client, it's a friend or family member, it's a FSBO, it's a landlord, you name it. Aligning the value proposition with the person we're talking to is where the magic starts to happen. And of course, there are scripts for all of these, so I don't want you to stress about, well, I don't know how to align those value propositions. How do I have the right conversation? We're giving you the scripts for that, so you're going to know exactly how to start the conversation and what value you bring, depending on who you're talking to. But ultimately, the goal is add value. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm not trying to convince you of anything. I'm not trying to convert you into a client. I'm just here to make friends, add value, help people in the best way I know how. So for sell by owners, for example, we know at this moment in time, they don't want to list with an agent. Why in the world would I start a conversation trying to convince a random stranger to do something I know they don't want to do? That is not effective. There's no value in that. And so you'll notice as we walk through our script, it's a very different conversation, and that's why it's so effective. And when I say so effective, just to give you an idea, over the last half of 2024, first quarter of 2025 here, 40 to 50% of my listing business has been from FSBO relationships that I've created. Now that's a little bit high. Like I've really leaned into it a bit, but on any given quarter of my entire real estate career, 20 to 40% of my listing business has come from FSBO relationships that I've started. So this is a very, very effective conversation, a very, very effective strategy when done correctly. I know this because I do it. Not trying to convince you to do it any other way that doesn't work. I'm telling you exactly how I do it. The script that I give you is exactly how I do it. The proof is in the pudding, right? 20 to 50% of my active listings. And that's not to brag, but that's not like, oh, I have 2 listings and one of them's a FSBO. We're talking any given quarter, 12 to 15 listings on the market, and half of those are from FSBO relationships. That's a lot of additional business coming from FSBO relationships. So just know that. And again, last but not least, the ultimate goal is to make a friend and build a relationship. We are not here to sell people. We are not here to convince people. We're not trying to make them change their mind from what they've already agreed upon. They'll do that on their own when the time is right. We're just here to add value and be friends. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more strategically about the FSBOs specifically. And then we'll talk a little bit about the landlords. How do we broach the conversation before we dive into the scripts in a minute? With both of the conversations, I want to get some quick yeses as quickly as I can, because I want to start our conversation on a positive note, right? Imagine calling someone that you knew didn't want to do something, and then you tried to convince them to do it anyway. you're going to get a lot of no's. You're going to get a lot of walls put up. You're going to get a lot of hesitation. And that's going to start the conversation on a very negative note. That's not the way we build relationships. And so we're going to ask some questions that more likely than not, they're willing to say yes to. Almost every time they're willing to say yes to them. And that's going to build on positivity. So I say things like, is this the owner of 123 Main Street? I know who I'm talking to. I just pulled it up online. I know who I'm right. Unless I type out the number, I'm talking to the right person, most likely. But I still want to ask that question because they're going to say, yeah, absolutely. Great. And is that still on the market for sale right now? Absolutely. Right. And then we're going to walk through a list of value propositions that is very easy for them to say yes to. So we talk about, and again, you'll see this more in depth in the script. I'm going to ask them things like, are you open to working with a buyer's agent if I bring you a qualified buyer and a great deal? Can I bring you a buyer? Absolutely bring me a buyer, right? 99% of FSBOs understand that they're going to pay a buyer's agent already. They just don't want to pay a listing agent because they're trying to save a little money. No problems at all with that. They almost always are willing. That's what they want you to bring a buyer. That's why it's on Zillow or Marketplace. They're promoting it so you can bring a buyer. And so then we'll talk about, great, I would love to bring the right buyer. I don't want to waste anybody's time. Are you okay if I do some proactive marketing to find the right buyer that I can vet, qualify, and make sure they're ready to buy the house? Can I do some, no cost to you, but could I do some proactive marketing for you? Yeah, sure. Knock yourself out. Do whatever you need to do. Give me a buyer. And then we'll talk about how video content is a better engagement metric for marketing. So I'd love to do some video content. Could I meet you at the property for a short period of time and do some video walkthroughs? I'll ask about, hey, could I host an open house for you? At the end of the call, we always offer to give them the FSBO guide. Again, don't stress over building one. I got one for you. I'm going to give it to you. We walk through these value propositions, and the goal is to walk as far down this line of value proposition as we can. If they say yes to everything, wonderful. Maybe they don't say yes to an open house. Maybe they're like, no, that feels a bit too much. You can do the marketing, bring me a buyer. I don't want you to do an open house. Okay, great. No problem at all. I will do the other things. But we're going to walk through that line of value propositions until we wrap up the call with, can I send you the FSBO guide? And you'll see that in the script. But we're going to get a lot of quick yeses in to build that positivity into our conversation. And we build this relationship on the right footing. When we're talking to landlords, right? Again, remember the mindset. They're numbers based. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Tell me about the numbers, right? And so we're going to ask, I like the opening question because, again, almost always can they say yes to this? First, I start, right? Is this the owner of 123 Main Street? Yeah, it sure is. Wonderful. Is that still for rent right now? Yep. Who's this? Hey, listen, my name is Walt Key with Epic Realty. I'm a local realtor. I don't need to rent your house, but I was just curious. Would you be open to the possibility of potentially selling that investment property if I brought you a qualified buyer and a great deal? Would you be open to selling that one? Almost always the answer is going to be, well, yeah, sure. What's the numbers look like, right? Yeah, I'd be open to it. Well, what did you have in mind? Right? And that's going to lead us into talking shop. Let's talk a little bit about the house. How long have you had it? What condition is it in? When did you make the updates? How old's the roof? We're just going to build rapport with them as we get some information about the house so that we can run a proper CMA. I'm going to offer to run the numbers for them, send it over to them. We're going to ask, do you have any other properties that I could take a look at for you, run the numbers? What's your long-term plan? Are you planning to buy more? Are you planning to start selling soon? Are you going to retire at some point? Are you keeping these in the estate? You're just going to walk down that list of questions. Very, very simple conversation. No pressure at all, right? We're just saying, hey, listen, let's talk. If it makes sense, it makes sense. If it doesn't, no big deal. And we're going to build that rapport as we go. Okay, the most important piece of all of this is the follow-up. You will almost never have a conversation with a landlord or a FSBO. And on that first conversation, they say, you know what? Let's go. Let's do something together. That's just not how relationships are built. That's not how it works. So the follow-up is super, super critical. And I want to give you some statistics here. These are not Walt Key's opinions. These are statistical facts. It's sad, but it's true. You'll notice that first bullet, 92% of salespeople follow up once or never at all. 92%. One follow-up or none whatsoever. But in the sales industry as a whole, 80% of closed sales don't happen until at least the fifth attempt. So you can understand how wide that gap truly is. If we need at least 5 attempts to have an 80% success rate, but 92% of the time we're only following up once or never. Well, that's why you're not closing business. You're not following up consistently up. And we know, again, from 2024 statistics, 93% of for sale by owners will list with an agent if the house isn't already sold, which 93% of the time it isn't. We're going to try to sell it with them, right? We're going to try to bring the buyer. And even if we don't find the right buyer for this house, we're still going to generate other buyers that we go shopping with outside of it by using their listing as marketing. So whether they sell it with another agent, whether they sell it on their own, really doesn't matter because we're generating business for ourselves from the buyers that we're producing. But if we don't find the right buyer, but we consistently follow up, we consistently add value, we consistently engage with them, we stay in front of them, 93% of the time, they're going to ask you to list the house for them when the time is right for them. So we don't have to push that decision. All right. Most landlords sell into retirement. And what I mean by that is most landlords, when they're ready to kick their feet up on the boat with a fruity drink and relax, they don't want to have to be out there managing 11 different rental properties. It's time. If you've never been a landlord, it's time and energy intensive. So a lot of landlords will actually sell off their rental portfolio before they retire and take a break. So at some point down the road, if you follow up consistently and you're trying to add value, the landlords are going to ask you, hey, why don't you just sell these for me? I appreciate everything you've done. I'm ready to start winding down. So all we have to do is be their friend that they remember when they make decisions about real estate. We don't have to convince them. We don't have to force them. We don't have to try to change their mind. We just have to be the friend that they remember when someone says the word real estate in their presence or they make a decision about real estate, they reach back out to you. So it's very, very important to understand the critical nature of your follow-up. Most people fail miserably at the follow-up. That is where the magic happens in this business. We teach in the 100K and 100 days challenge 10 follow-ups in the first 30 days, right? Because 80% of sales close after the 5th attempt. By the time you've hit 10 follow-up attempts, one of two things has usually happened. Either they say, hey, leave me the hell alone. I'm not interested. Great. I have confirmed that. We're moving on. We don't have to follow up with them anymore. Or they say, hey, I'm so sorry I haven't gotten back to you yet. Life was busy, crazy week, kids in school, yada, yada. Yes, I still want to do that thing. I want to see that house. Let's work together. I understand that people have lives, and if they don't get back to you the first couple times, it's not that they don't want to work with you. It's that they are busy people too, and they're just not, it's not the height of their priority at that moment. It's not what's capturing their focus at that moment. So that follow-up is super critical. I've had clients. Actually, I have an active buyer right now with a max budget of about 600,000 or 700,000, and we are actively shopping for properties. And it took 7 attempts through Facebook Marketplace because I was actually marketing a FSBO when they reached out to me to say, hey, I'd like to look at that property. I'm a buyer, right? And I responded. They never got back to me. I responded again. They never got back to me. Responded again. They never got back to me. On the 7th follow-up attempt, they reached back out to me. They apologized for not getting back to me sooner. They said, yep, absolutely. We still want to see that. When can we schedule the showing? And now they are an active buyer. We didn't buy the FSBO, but I have a qualified active buyer shopping in the $600,000 or $700,000 price range because I kept following up until they said, leave me alone or I'm ready to go. I cannot overstate how important your follow-up is. Okay, last but not least, and then we're going to move on to some scripts. I want to walk through exactly how you execute this strategy, but I can't not talk about this. I have this at the end of every single coaching call I've ever done. I coach about half a dozen different topics. This slide is in every single one of them because it's so important. You have been lied to your entire life, and it's tricking you into complacency. Knowledge is not power. You've all heard this, oh, knowledge is power, knowledge is power. No, it isn't. Knowledge is nothing more than dormant potential that's sitting there powerless. Your execution is where the power comes from. Yes, you need the right information. You do need knowledge. You need the tools and resources to execute on that knowledge. But if you never take the initiative to run your business, nobody else can help you. No amount of knowledge is going to make you successful. You have to execute your business for yourself. So I just want to make sure I hammer that point home. This presentation was knowledge. We're about to walk through some tools and resources to give you what you need to execute. But the one thing none of us can do for you is go do the strategy and execute your business. That one's on you. All right, so let's pause right there. Again, if you want to connect with me in any way, just hit that QR code really quick before I unshare the screen. That'll take you to my link tree, social platforms, phone number, email, websites, the whole shebang. It's all there if you have specific questions and you want to reach out to me privately. Let me unshare my screen, and then I want to dive into some scripts really quick. And I want to walk you through the nuts and bolts of the execution and understand that all of what I'm talking about here, the presentation, the scripts, the guide, it's all in the 100K challenge Google Drive under the FSBO folder. You're getting access to all of this so that you can execute properly. Okay, let's keep on checking. And let's talk about scripts. So the first script I want to talk about is what I call the FSBO value add script. This is the conversation we want to have when we don't necessarily have the right buyer just yet. That's a different conversation. That's called the bring a buyer script. That's also in the Google Drive for you. But this conversation is all about, I want to add value in order to build a relationship. There's so many different ways we can do that as professionals, whether you are a lender or an agent. And so that's how we're going to run the conversation. So the script starts very simple. Again, we're going to ask some questions I know we get a yes to. Hey, is this the owner of 123 Main Street? Of course it is. If they don't ask, who is this, all right from the get-go, then you can say, is that still available right now? Is that still for sale? And they'll probably say, yes, it is. At some point between, is this the owner? Is it still for sale? And it looks like you're trying to sell that on your own. Is that correct? Right? You can add those extra questions if you want to, just to get some more yeses. At some point, they're going to ask you, who is this? When they do, move right along to the second piece of the script, which is the first paragraph, right? Obviously, change your name. If you're an agent, say you're an agent. If you're a lender, say you're a lender, right? I'm not going to treat you guys like kiddos. You know how to tweak this and make it your own. So awesome. Hey, listen, my name's Walt. I'm a local real estate agent. I'm a local lender in wherever. Hey, and then this is super important. Watch what happens here. Because as soon as they hear the real estate piece, they go, oh, geez, here's another salesman trying to convince me they should list my house, right? That wall is going to start going up immediately. Because every other person that's calling them is a schmuck trying to convince them to do the one thing they don't want to do, which is list it. We're not going to do that. So notice how I address that elephant in the room right from the start. I say, hey, listen, before we go any further, do me a huge favor, take a deep breath. And then I pause for about half a second. And then I say, listen, I know you're probably getting bombarded with calls from other agents trying to convince you to do the one thing you don't want to do, which is list with an agent. Listen, that's not why I'm calling. I don't even want to talk about listing your house. Is that okay? And that immediately starts to change the tone of our conversation, because the one thing they were dreading, you just said, hey, I get it. I understand. I'm not interested in talking about that at all. And so I've heard this over and over. A lot of times the response is a variation of, well, why are you calling me then? If you know you're in the real estate business and you don't want to list my house, what the heck are you calling me for? Right? And now we get to just be honest. We now can have a genuine conversation. So we're just going to tell them, hey, listen, I actually just love helping people any way I can. And this is for me, right? If you do this the way I teach you, then you're going to be able to say the exact same thing, because it should be on your calendar at least once a week. And I say, hey, listen, I actually put time on my calendar each week just to call my local for sale by owners and see if I might be able to add a little value and help them sell their home on their own. Do you have about 10 minutes just to chat real quick about some ways that I might be able to help you with that? Simple, right? And that opens the conversation for all of the other value propositions. And if you get to that point and you say, I just want to see if I can help you sell it on your own, do you have 10 minutes to chat about some other ways I might be able to do that? And they're like, no, not really. I'm not interested. Okay, well, hey, listen, I just want to make sure we're clear. I don't want anything from you. I'm not trying to list your house. I'm not trying to charge you a dime for anything. I just genuinely like to help people, and I have some strategies that I can execute at no cost to potentially help you get your house sold. Do you want to talk about that for a second? Just kind of re-initiate that question, making sure that they understand you're not trying to charge them for anything. You're not trying to ask anything of them. And if they still say no, okay, hey, no problem. Have a great day. Good luck. Hang up the phone, call the next one. We're not trying to convince them to do anything they don't want to do. You can call them again next week. You can call them again the following week. Say, hey, it's Walt Key. We talked briefly last week where I offered to do some things to help you sell your house on your own. And you said you weren't interested, but I noticed it's still on the market. Now, listen, I just want to ask, again, I'm going to probably call every week just to ask you, Could I help you sell your home at no cost to you? No, I'm not interested. I just wanted to check. Good luck with everything. Have a good week. Right? You can do that. But we're not trying to convince them to change their mind. There are plenty of other people that we can help. We're just going to find the ones that want the help, and we're going to offer it. So let's say for a moment they say yes, sure, yeah, fine. I got a few minutes. Go ahead, right? Then we're going to walk through the value. Now, the first one is the obvious one, right? We're going to say, let's just address the obvious thing. Are you open to working with a buyer's agent if I bring you a qualified buyer and a great deal on your home? I promise you 99% of the time the answer is yes. Right? Just be matter of fact about it. Are you open to working with a buyer's agent if I brought you a qualified buyer and a great deal? Now, lenders, you don't actually have to change this question at all. Because as the lender, what are you going to do? You're going to go find the buyer, you're going to get them qualified, you're going to vet them, and then you're going to hand them off to your agent partner to do the showing. So that question doesn't change whether you're an agent or a lender. The question to the seller is, are you open to working with a buyer's agent if we brought you a qualified buyer and a great deal? And the answer is almost always yes. And then we're going to move right in. What I'd really love to do is some proactive marketing to drum up some great buyers. I want to vet them, make sure they're qualified to buy the house. There's a lot of tire kickers out there. I don't want to waste your time. And then when I find the serious buyers who are actually ready and able to buy your house, I want to bring them to the table for you. This won't cost you a dime. Does that sound okay? Could I do some marketing for you? And almost always are, yeah, knock yourself out. Photos are online. Do whatever you want. Bring me a buyer. Do whatever you want to do. Then we'll move on to the next value proposition, which is the video walkthrough. And so we'll say, great, well, hey, listen, what really drives great marketing these days is video content. Would you be open to meeting me at the property for just 10 to 15 minutes, 20 minutes, sometime this week, so I can do a couple great video walkthroughs to use in the marketing in order to drive even more engagement and find more buyers? Could I just do that 15, 20 minutes? Could I do that with you? Yeah, sure, whatever. Right. Yeah, I'll meet you. What day? What day do you have in mind? Right. You can set an appointment to go physically get in front of them. Now, listen, realtor, you could use your cell phone. Don't overthink this. You don't need a videographer. You're just doing a video walkthrough. Loan officer, don't overthink this. You don't need a videographer. You don't need an agent with you. This is just a homeowner willing to meet you there so you can do a video walkthrough of their property, right? Both of you have the ability to do this, whether you're on an Android or an iPhone. Look, I'm not in that debate, right? We're not talking about which one's better. Your phone, if it's not 10 years old or older, is more than capable to do a basic video walkthrough. Go in the house, turn on all the lights first, get it as bright as you can, and then just do a walkthrough. Now, for Marketplace, which is one of the places we're going to drive a lot of our traffic, so we are going to market the FSBO on Facebook Marketplace, you're going to want one video that highlights the best aspect of the house, and you're going to want that specific video to be 60 seconds or less. The average video walkthrough, depending on the size of the house, might take anywhere from 3 to 7 minutes, and that's all fine and good, right? You can get a full-blown, every single room, backyard, front yard, you can get a full-blown walkthrough, save it to Dropbox or whatever you want to do. But for the marketing on Facebook Marketplace, we want 60 seconds or less, highlighting the best aspect of the house. Maybe that's the open floor plan, living, dining, kitchen. Maybe that's a master suite that's just amazing. They got the jacuzzi tub and the walk-in shower. Maybe it's the backyard, beautiful deck overlooking the lake, whatever it might be. But that highlight video, if you will, is what we're going to use to market on Marketplace, and it's got to be 60 seconds or less. So just bear that in mind. As you're doing your walkthroughs, you need that one short one. So if they say yes to that, again, just book a time. What day this week is best for you? Would morning, afternoon, or evening be best for you? Wonderful. How about this day on this time? Gotcha. I'm putting it on my calendar right now. Can't wait to meet you there. Lock it up, knock it out. You'll be able to build more rapport in front of them than you ever could on the phone. Moving right along, right? So we're going to do the marketing. Now we're going to transition just a little bit. We've offered to bring the buyer. We've offered to do some marketing. We've offered to do video content. Now we're going to do something that's a little bit unique. Well, I guess it's all unique at this point, right? We're going to talk a little bit about their listing, and we're just going to give them some free advice on how they can make it better. So we'll talk about their photos. And if they're not great, if the lighting's wrong, if the rooms are cluttered, if they're not properly staged or cleaned up or depersonalized, If there's sun glare coming through the kitchen window and it's messing up the view of the kitchen countertops, right? We're going to just say, hey, listen, let's talk about your photos, the lighting, the this, the that, right? Give them some professional advice. Offer to connect them to your preferred photographer. So listen, you don't have to use me to use my photographer, but she's amazing. And actually, quite frankly, I'll tell you, she's the reason I sell houses so fast and for so much money, because her photos are amazing. And that's what walks people through the door. I'm happy to make a text introduction if you want to talk to the photographer about what she might charge you to take professional photos, probably a few $100 at most, but it'd be worth doing because those professional photos really make a difference in your marketing, right? Just offer that to them. Talk about the listing description. And if it says 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, big backyard, that ain't the listing description they need, right? We got to help them walk through, how do I describe my home in a way where the buyers can mentally see themselves in their new home, right? So we need to tell a story. We need to be a little more descriptive. We need to talk about what they're going to see when they open the door and the flow of the house and the beautiful this and amazing that, right? So just walk them through that. Talk about the home, talk about the features, talk about the size, the shape, the layout, how old's this, how old's that, right? And then help them craft a listing description that is better suited to enticing buyers to want to go look at the house, right? Simple stuff, right? Walk them through that stuff. Just add as much value as you can. This is your opportunity to build rapport, to add more value, more value, more value. And you're learning about the house. So if a buyer reaches out to you, say, let's say through Facebook Marketplace, and says, do you have any more photos? Tell me more about the house. You can be like, yeah, actually, I did a whole video walkthrough of the entire house. It's a beautiful house. It's got a great layout. The kitchen opens into the dining room, blah, 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 blah. Would you like the link to the video that I did? That's super valuable to the buyer who just reached out, right? So all of this comes back around as we start generating those buyer leads. Okay, so then we'll talk a little bit more. We'll go into the next value proposition, which is, could I host an open house for you if you would like me to? Listen, that'll bring all the buyers to the house at one time. It saves me from having to schedule individual showings with you sporadically throughout the week. If we hosted an open house, maybe this weekend or next, I could just drive all of the buyer traffic to the house at one shot. I'll be there for 2 to 3 hours. And any buyers that come through the door that are serious, I can vet them, qualify them right there. And if they want to write an offer, we can get going. Would you be open to letting me do an open house for you? Again, no cost to you. I will take care of everything. This is just one of the things me and my agent partner do. If you're the lender, you and your agent partner. If you're the agent, this is one of the things I do. And it's okay if they say no. Some sellers are going to be less, at this point in time, they're going to be a little less comfortable with that because they don't know you well. That's okay. We're still going to offer the value. Some will say yes, some will say no. When you're in the house to do the video walkthrough, you can bring this open house back up again. And you can talk about, wow, this is great. I love this. I love that. This would do really well. I think I definitely want to market this aspect. Hey, I know we talked briefly on the phone about the open house situation. I just wanted to ask, did you have any questions about that? Did you get a chance to think about it? What do you think about doing an open house now? It's okay if they say no, but now that you've built some more rapport, you're in their house, they might be a little more willing to say, you know what? You seem like a good person. You're not a Nigerian prince scammer trying to get into my house. Yeah, maybe we could talk about doing the open house. It's okay if they say no, but we're always going to offer the value. And then the last thing we want to wrap up the call with, okay? The FSBO guide, which I'll walk you through in just a minute, is a 31-page document that was built to walk a seller through absolutely every aspect of the home sales process. It is tons and tons of value, but it's also potentially a little overwhelming because the FSBOs typically don't understand everything that goes beyond, behind the scenes on a real estate transaction. So when they read that guide, a lot of times it's like, oh my goodness, I did not realize everything I was committing to when I tried to do this on my own. So it is both valuable and a little overwhelming. And at the very last page of it, it basically says, hey, if this feels like too much for you, if you think you want to hire a professional, I'm more than happy to help. Right? We're not pushing the issue, but we're planting the seed. We're dropping the hint. And so we just ask, hey, listen, whether I bring the buyer or you do, there's a ton more involved, right? Bringing the right buyer is just the start. So I built a FSBO guide to walk sellers through every single step of the home selling process. Could I email that over to you so you have a copy of it? It's a how-to guide from start to finish. And if you have any questions, of course, you're welcome to ask, but could I shoot that your way? Would that be helpful? Wow, yeah, absolutely. I'd love to get it. Great. What's your best email address? I'll send it over as soon as I get off the phone with you. Right. So now we're adding more value, but we're also getting more lead data. Right now, in addition to name, address, phone number, now I have an email address as well. So, and when I add them to my CRM and I make sure I'm following up consistently, part of my follow-up might be an email to ask them if they had any questions about the how-to guide, right? Part of my email might be, hey, here's a few properties that just sold around you last week. I just wanted you to see what your competition was like, right? And we send them an MLS link with a few sold properties or a few active properties that just went on the market. Hey, here's your competition right now. You'll notice they're priced a little bit different than you, right? It's very helpful to have that email for our follow-up. In addition to, we're going to at least once a week, we're going to follow up with a phone call. But the email is just one more layer that we can add into our CRM to automate our follow-up, right? And that's it. We're going to wrap it up from there. We're going to say, it's great talking to you. Would you mind if I stayed in touch periodically? Of course, at this point, they're going to say yes to that. And then here's the kicker on the follow-up. In addition to the weekly phone call, which I'm going to talk about in 1 second, leverage that email to send them questions. Did you have any questions for me? Here's some information about the market. Here's some new listings that went on the market. But at least, at a minimum, once a week, you're going to call them back and you're going to talk about how your marketing went. Facebook Marketplace will give you weekly metrics. How many people viewed the listing? How many people saved the listing? You'll know how many conversations were sparked through Messenger. So you'll be able to call that FSBO, again, with value to say, hey, I just wanted to update you on how my marketing was going. I had 615 people look at my marketing this week. About 32 of them saved it. And I sparked about a dozen or so conversations. None of those were serious buyers just yet, but I'm continuing to follow up with them and see if anything unfolds. I just want to let you know I'm still out there working. How did it go for you? Did you have any calls? Did you do any showings? How's everything going on your end? We're always going to end our phone call with, is there anything else that I can do for you right now? And they'll probably say no the first few times, and that's okay. Is there anything else that I can do for you right now? No, I'm good. I appreciate it. All right, great. No problem. Good luck this week. I'll talk to you soon. Next week, we're calling them back. Hey, I just wanted to let you know how the marketing went. Had 475 people look at it. 12 saved it. Another dozen or so conversations. I got one that might be serious, but we're having a deeper conversation about making sure they're qualified. How'd it go for you? Is there anything else that I can do for you right now? Is there anything else that I can do for you right now? Is there anything else that I can do for you right now? That is the follow-up phone call ending question. Is there anything else I can do for you? Because again, 93% at some point, if we can't bring the buyer, if we don't help them get it sold, there is a high statistical probability that they're going to ask you to list this property. If you're the lender having these conversations and you say, is there anything else that I can do for you right now? And they say, listen, Joe, you've been great, man. I appreciate all the marketing. Do you have an agent that you trust? We're thinking about just getting this listed. We got to move. Like, it's been a couple months. We're not getting it done on our own. I got this job transfer. Do you have an agent that you would recommend? You just became the most valuable lender on the planet because you have a legit, ready to go listing to hand to your agent partner. Good on you, man. That's great. While you're also over there generating buyers that you can qualify and go shop for other houses with. Beautiful perpetual cycle business. If you're the agent, obviously, if they ask you about listing, book a listing appointment, right? If you're the agent, as you're generating buyer conversations, right, that buyer conversation should quickly, for the serious buyers, should turn into, are you already pre-qualified? What did that lender quote you? I think you should probably get a second opinion. Would you mind if I introduce you to my lending partner? Because they're amazing and it won't cost you anything, but I think a second opinion would really be valuable to you. Are you open to that, right? Agents, we're going to drive that buyer business to our lender partner. Lender, we're going to drive that buyer business to our agent, and we are going to close deals together and make more money along the way. So that's how that construct works. Let me talk super briefly about the FSBO guide, and then we'll wind this call down because, again, I don't want this to be a super long, drawn-out coaching call. I want you to take what you need, and I want you to go execute. So this is the FSBO guide. It's completely built out for you already. All you have to do is send it. We talk about so much in this guide. And again, I'm not going to highlight every single piece. It's 31 pages. I'm going to go through it pretty quickly. But imagine if you're the for sale by owner and you opened this, very beautifully done, by the way, 30-page guide that walks you through every step and every phase of the real estate sales process. Here's everything that you might bump into. Here's all of the things that you should be thinking about. Here's the nuts and bolts of the entire process, right? And then at the end of this, you're like, holy crap. I thought I just popped it on Zillow, the buyer showed up, and the title rep closed the deal for me and I made money. I did not realize there was all this involved. And then you get down to the end of it and it says, hey, are you ready to hire a professional? If this seems like too much for you, if here's some reasons why you might hire a professional, and we're here to help. If you need it, we got you, right? Doesn't mean they're going to go right now. I'm going to call that person back and start talking about listing, but we've planted the seed while also offering massive value, right? That's a super fun way to do business when we can just add value to people and then we let them reach out to us when they need our services. All right. So let me unshare my screen really quick. Again, the whole point of this is massive value in a non-salesy, relationship-focused way that absolutely anybody can do. If you're a lender, if you're an agent, anybody can add massive value. And we're going to use the for sale by owners property in order to go generate buyer business for us while also trying to sell the FSBOs property for them. The ultimate goal is to generate tons of great buyers that we can qualify, vet, go shop. Maybe we shop with that FSBO and we wind up helping that FSBO sell their house. There's nothing wrong with that. That's amazing. Maybe those buyers decide they don't want the FSBO, but now they're still qualified buyers that we're out there shopping with and we're helping them close deals. So again, perpetual cycle of business because every buyer needs to buy a house. So that gives you reasons to go talk to other FSBOs that might have the right match for that buyer. Every FSBO becomes marketing, which generates new buyers. And at some point you help the FSBO by listing the house potentially. Sometimes you help the FSBO by closing a deal with a great buyer. Sometimes they sell it on their own, but you still help them with the marketing. They're already in your database. You're not going to stop following up with them. You're going to be happy that they helped, that they sold their house. You're still going to be a referral partner. There's no end to the business that gets generated when you focus on these value-based propositions to build the right relationships. Okay, so that's it. I'm going to wrap this up. In the Google Drive for the 100K in 100 Days Challenge, there is a folder titled FSBOs. In that folder is a replay of the training, is the script, is a landlord script. I know we didn't talk about that. The script is super easy. Is the FSBO guide. Everything you need to execute this strategy is right there available for you. Go out there, execute this strategy, and absolutely crush your business.